Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Dynamic Thriving Podcast. I am your host, Mary Ann Pack, author, publisher, and joy advocate, and guiding you into all things life transformational. And in this series, we are interviewing people who have become authors, maybe multiple times, but it's sharing not only their work and their book. We're also talking about what it meant to them to go through the process of writing and what they learned and what they experienced and how it was for them to write their book and put it out into the world. So today, my guest is Pamela Plick. Welcome, Pamela. I am so happy that you've joined me.
Oh, thank you so much, Marianne. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yes. And Pamela's company is Pamela Plick Wealth Management. So that kind of gives you an idea of maybe where we're going with her book today. And her book is called Rise to Your Money Power. So tell us who Pamela Plick is and what good you bring into the world.
Okay, well, thank you. I am a speaker, best-selling author, show host, and founder and CEO of Pamela Plick Wealth Management. And I am on a mission to empower women to confidently build wealth from the inside out. And I really feel called to do this work because what I know is when we as women can take the fear out of building financial freedom, that allows us to bring our unique gifts into the world in ways that make the greatest impact. And I just love being able to support women in that.
I love that. I think we as women definitely need that help with creating and building and holding and being generous with, and all of that in regards to money and our abundance. And do you find too that sometimes women have a difficulty with worthiness in that?
We do. I think a lot of it has to do with how we are raised culturally,
Mm-hmm.
because women traditionally are the caregivers, we're the nurturers. We have a tendency to take care of everyone else before we can take care of ourselves. And as a result, sometimes we feel that, we're not. We shouldn't focus on what we want, that it's selfish to think about what it is we want and putting ourselves first. But I want to say that it's not selfish, it's self-full. And that's a word that Iala Van Zandt came up with. But it's so true. We think about that, that we want to take care of everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we were talking before about the analogy of being on an airplane, right? If you're traveling with a child or someone else that's dependent upon you, you're listening to the safety the safety spiel, right? And what's the first thing they tell you? If the cabin pressure drops, then you put your oxygen mask on first, then you put on your child's oxygen mask, because if you have to take care of yourself first to be able to take care of anyone else that might that you might be uh, taking care of. And so a lot of times we struggle with that.
Yeah.
We think we're not necessarily good enough. And it's interesting too, I don't hear men talking a lot about the imposter syndrome, but we as women a lot of times we do suffer from that. We think we're not good enough, or maybe we don't belong in that certain
Mm-hmm.
room, or we don't, we can't make money doing what we love to do. And I think it's just so important that we overcome and shift that those limiting beliefs and know that we are worthy, especially,
Mhm.
if we're purpose driven woman, we're spiritual, we want to live an abundant life, and part of abundance is prosperity,
Yes.
right? Because the more money we make, the more good we can do in the world. Now, money may not be our primary motivating factor, but and you don't have to keep it if you make it. You can give it away, right, to family, friends, or those causes that you're passionate about. So it's so important, that as women that we know our worth, our
Mhm.
self-worth.
Absolutely. I was thinking about that. You were talking about that, and I was thinking how I was raised in the conservative church that I was raised in, and the teaching around women and what they could and couldn't do,
Hmm.
couldn't be, or and the teaching that always ran in our family through the learning in the church, was that mommies don't make money, only daddies make money, and mommies just stay home and take care of children and the home and the daddy. And so that was a very powerful message that I, to this day, I'm still releasing. I find moments where it's that, who am I to want to be out there in the world and working or doing or making money? So anyway, I've jumped ahead because I wanted to introduce your book, The Rise to Your Money Power. So tell us about your book and how that came about.
Sure. And the book, I'm sure you can see it in the background, but
There
it's
it is.
Rise to Your Money Power, a step by step guide to building an empowered relationship with money. And the reason the book came about is, I've been in the financial services industry for over 30 years.
Mm.
And I've worked with hundreds of women. I started out on, with as a financial planner, investment advisor first, but then I decided I really wanted to help women create financial plans, to get them from where they are now to where they want to be long term. So I got the education and certification and all of that designation to become a certified financial planner, practitioner. And when I came across so many women who were not ready to take that inspired action to
Mm.
create the financial plan because there was something in their relationship with money that needed to be healed or beliefs that needed to be shifted.
Wow.
And so as a result of, my 30 years of experience, also my own money journey, I knew that I really wanted to get the message out. I never originally thought of myself as an author, which is interesting. But I co-authored 4 books and then finally wrote my own individual book. But I knew I had a message that I wanted to bring to the world, and so that was really how the book came about and my motivation for writing it.
Yeah. And I tend to say our mess is our message. And usually what we've gone through or something we've dealt with and come out the other side in
Mhm.
healing, that can tend to be, that healing part of it tends to be our message that we carry through. So was this wrapped around kind of in your mess to message? Did you kind of go through that financial experience, having to learn to present it to others?
I did actually. In my master message, actually, it started with my divorce. Um,
Mm.
I married young, married for love, and everything was planned except the divorce. And so my husband and I divorced by the time my son was 2. Now, I did not plan to be the primary caregiver, or not caregiver, but caregiver as well as a primary breadwinner, for my family. Now, I had a great job. I just got a wonderful entry level job in banking, and but I did not know about investing and financial planning. I knew how to save, but didn't know what went into building financial security. And so there were a lot of emotions too that I had to work through. I had to practice forgiveness, right?
Wow.
Because, and also you're talking about this, we talked about this self-worth. I had to overcome the feeling that, well, maybe I'm not worthy of the kind of life that I want to have, right? And
Mhm.
so I had to let go of all of that, um, so that I could confidently move forward. And it's interesting because I had a successful career, and I, as I moved up the corporate ladder, it came at a cost. The cost
Mm.
was the not being able to spend as much time as I wanted with my son. And so I really, not only that, but one of the beliefs too that I had to get let go of was that I had to work really, really hard to
Mhm.
get ahead. And I did. I worked really, really, really hard. But we're talking about growing up, and that's really what was modeled for us. Now, my mom was a stay-at-home mom growing up, but my dad he was a career military man, and I watched him in terms of how his work ethic. He worked really, really hard. So I thought, okay, that's what I need to do. But after doing that and having a successful career, I came to the conclusion that there was something missing. I was burned out, first of all, from working so hard. And I knew that I wasn't meant to be in corporate America, my
Mhm.
entire for the from the my entire life. And so I stepped into more education, got, as I mentioned, got the certification and professional designation as a certified financial planner, and decided that really what I want to do was to help more women, so that they are they understand, or they benefit from my journey,
Yeah.
and the expertise that I gained along the way. So today, I have a wonderful practice that I love, working with clients that I love. And I have the time freedom, not only the time freedom to spend time with my son, and I have a beautiful daughter in law now, too, but also to be able to do the things that I love and to support the causes that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And so that really was my story. But the divorce was kind of a rude a rude awakening. But it turned out that it really propelled me, into what I feel that I'm called to do
Right.
today. So
So when when did you write this book? When was it published?
in January of 2000, actually, 2020. I'm sorry, 2020.
2020. So
Uh
just
huh.
yeah, just a little over 3 years ago. So what was it about that timing that seemed like it was right? It sounded like you already had, you had co-authored several books. So was it like you were in chapters like an anthology? Um,
Yes.
That was
Hmm.
okay, so that was your foray into becoming an author, that you took the opportunity to have a chapter in a book, in an anthology book. So, that kinda was like you're touching your toe in the water of the world of publishing, authorship. So when you wrote Rise to Your Money Power, what was that timing? Why was it that time seemed to be like the perfect time for you to write it?
A couple of reasons. Actually, I had signed the contract with the publisher before I co-authored the other books. So I
Oh.
kind of signed the contract and I kind of put it away, because I had the misconception that it would be so difficult, to finish
Mhm.
writing this book. Um, but I felt like, um, now is the time because, there's so much going on in the world, and I felt like, it was really the right time to get my message, my personal message out.
Mm.
um and I just made the decision that I was going to focus and get my, although I'd already had the content, so it wasn't about that I didn't know what to write about. I had all the content, just really taking the time, to sit down and organize it,
Yes.
and to bring it to the world, because I felt
Mm.
that, with my message and what I wanted to accomplish in getting my message out, that was just the perfect timing for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would think it probably did fall at the perfect time because, having gone that 2019 and then into 2020 with the pandemic and all, um, I would think so many more people were probably jumping ship from corporate and saying, the staying at home stuff kind of is working for me. And maybe I want to step out and start my own business. And they need that financial information that you're giving in this book. So I would think that definitely was a sourced timing, you following that. So what were some of the gifts? I call them gifts that we receive, when we go through the process of writing. And like you said, you had the material. And there's training that I do in Repurpose and Publish Planner that helps people, coaches and therapists and different people that have content they already had. It's just putting it in some semblance of order so that it flows into a book. So we talked earlier off screen about it being actually easier than it really it appears sometime. We have this idea of the author sitting hunched over their computer, with a cold cup of coffee sitting there because they've spent so many hours upon hours of working on something. And it's like pulling out, you're having to pull it out. But when it's in flow and it's sourced and it's being called through you, it's a totally different experience. So what were some of the gifts that you received as this progress, as this progressed through you writing and then publishing the book, and then even after when you launched it, the feelings that you experienced during that time, some of those gifts?
Yeah, I want to, first of all, I want to say too, one of the things um, that we as women have a hard time with is asking for support.
Yeah.
And one of the gifts that I received was really I accepted support. Although I had all of the content, I did have a writing coach that
Yeah.
kind of helped me
Mhm.
in terms of gaining even more clarity. And like I said, I have the publisher, to publish the book. Um, but in terms of going through the content and actually structuring and writing the book, it really gave me more clarity and insight on what I really wanted to focus on in my work and
Mhm.
who I wanted to help and how I wanted to help them. Um, and I love that. It just gave me more clarity and insight, and
Yeah.
even into my financial journey. There were some epiphanies that came up that I hadn't thought about. when I'd outlined the book, but then I'm like, oh, I remember I had this memory, you know, and I want to share one memory, is that my grandmother, who I love dearly, and we lost her, 2 years ago, at 99. And at the age of, I think I was probably 11 or 12, she opened a savings account for me. Now,
Mhm.
she did that for all of the grandchildren, but for me, it was so meaningful that, back then we had the little passbooks where,
Yeah.
you go in and they stamp your deposit and write it write it in.
Yep.
And I was so excited to have this savings account that had my name on it. And what I did was every time I got money, whether it's birthday money or gifts or whatever, and when I was old enough to work, I would deposit money into my savings account. It felt so good to have my own money.
Mhm.
And by the time I was ready to buy my first car, I actually had enough in the savings account to put the down payment on the car. And
Mhm.
so that was so meaningful to me. And to this day, I love having my own my own money, And um so memories, that came up, and clarity around, oh, these were some of the beliefs that you had, that I had growing up. And this is what was modeled for me, and I just love that.
Mhm.
It was a wonderful, eye opening experience. And once the book was published, I felt really this sense of accomplishment that I finally got my message out, and there's another a quote that I love, and I believe it was from Dr. Wayne Dyer said it. He said, "Don't die with your music still in you." And
Yes.
so that's just something that has resonated with me. If I have something I want to say, um, I feel like I want to I'm going to say it. Yes. And then once the publisher published the book, it became an Amazon bestseller. And
Mhm.
I was just so excited, so humbled, and even looking at the responses, reviews from
Yeah.
those that purchased the book, it just really was so rewarding that my message resonated, and that's really how I felt, just very humbled and very grateful,
Mhm.
and very fulfilled, that my message resonated.
Yes. Yes. So, how do you use the book in support of what you're doing? How do you support clients by having them go through the book? What has it provided for you? Has it opened up paths of speaking for other groups? I know you talked about having a talk show, a TV show. So what is it by writing and publishing this book? What has it brought? How has it increased or expanded your business? How are you using it within your business to support your audience, your clients?
Sure. Well, you mentioned my talk show. I have a weekly talk show on the WinWinWomen.tv network. And it's also now it's streamed on Roku, Amazon Fire, as well as Apple TV. And the name of my show is Rise to Your Money Power. And it's based on my book. So the topics that we talk about are topics that are uh, topics to empower women around their relationship with money. We have honest conversations about how to empower themselves around money. And so that's one way, and I do um, provide training, based on the book. I also share it, if there's someone that I think would, resonate with them or get value out of the message, then sometimes I gift the book to them, especially if they're not quite ready to work with me,
Right.
in one of my programs or take advantage of my services. So I do that, do that as well. Variety of ways, that I use the book.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that your show is actually based on the principles of your book.
Mhm.
That's excellent. Um, so now I know they can get your book on your website, pamelaplick.com/books. So do you want to mention anything about how they can get it or anything in particular?
Well, sure. Thank you. If you just go to pamelaplick.com/books, the description of the book is there. And the link to purchase it is on Amazon, as well as Barnes and Noble. But and also I have a complimentary workbook that goes along with the book. So if you purchase the book, you come back and put your information in, and you can get the workbook as well.
Mm.
And so it's on my site.
So is it directly on your Pamela Plick site or is it under this book section? Do you know?
If you go to the pamelaplick.com/books, that is a page on my website.
Right. So
Yeah,
this is her main website,
that's my website. Hmm. And
pamelaplick.com.
you
And
can get to the book from there as well. Just
oh,
you go down the menu, and it says books.
mhm.
Books. But go to pamelaplick.com and take a look at some of the other resources that I have that that will
Mhm.
help in terms of moving forward on your financial journey. But the book, to get directly to the book, is pamelaplick.com/books.
Very good. Very good. And all of these links and some more of hers will also be in the show notes for your convenience. So
Yeah.
no worries there.
Yeah, and I want to mention one other thing. Although the book um, is written for women,
Mhm.
men can get value from these principles as well. And I also wrote that in the book too, because I want to make sure that men, that um, you can gain value as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Pamela, for sharing this beautiful work that you're in and expanding. I heard one time that, and I can't remember who said it, so otherwise I would give the credit. But she said, money loves women. Women love money, but money loves women because when women have money, it was like we talked about earlier, like you mentioned, that we tend to expand and give it and expand the economy when we purchase things or when we share the gifts generously with others. That, to me, we're expanding the energy of the world. And women are so good at doing that when they have money. So money definitely loves women. Um, and I'm so happy that you're in this work and you are openly and um, out there sharing these principles of financial freedom, because I didn't learn it. That is for sure. I got the totally opposite message. So it's taken me many years to unlearn and then relearn, and I am still in that process. And so I'm so thankful that you were my guest today. And just as a reminder, when you are looking for you want to become an author. Like Pamela said, it's not as difficult. Many of us already have much of the material, the content that we already know. Or you have an idea, or you just have this calling. You feel like a book is being called through you. And that's how it is when we're heart-centered entrepreneurs. The books are called through us because there's someone else out there calling to our soul. Someone else's soul is calling, I need this. You have it. Please present it to me. And books are such a great way to share our mess becoming our message. And it's easy. It doesn't have to be difficult. As Pamela said, also, writing coaches. That's why I offer people to be able to develop their manuscript even before we go into the publishing contract. Because many times working through that will take some time because we are going, it is part of that mess to message. There are things that we heal. There are aha moments. There are epiphanies, like Pamela talked about when she went through the material she already had produced, but she was reawakened to some of the principles and the memories that stirred her to initially write the book in the first place. So be sure and contact me on envisiongreatness.com website is for our press. And there on the first page, if you scroll down, there's a Explore Publishing call with me. It is a complimentary call. We'll get on the phone, talk about what you're thinking about, the ideas that you have, where you feel like you're going with a book. And maybe you want to just be in a chapter in an anthology project first. That's what we did with Unmuted Voices back there. 12 additional authors and I put together Unmuted Voices. So it was our stories about unmuting our voices, and the aha moments and I call it light bulb in the soul moments that these authors experienced during the podcast and writing the book together. And the camaraderie and the oneness and the community that we developed changed our lives forever. I just can't believe how many stories these women have told me about how it was such a profound impact on their lives by writing a chapter in a book, and how their lives have changed, relationships have changed, business has changed. They discovered new things about themselves that they thought they had healed, and now they're coming out with something even more glorious. So be sure you get a hold of me at envisiongreatness.com, because if there's a book being called through you, I want to help you get that out into the world. So thank you, Pamela. Again, I appreciate you. Do you have any parting words of wisdom you would like to share with our audience?
Yes, thank you so much again, Marianne. It's wonderful to be here, and I just want to leave the listeners with this closing thought. Now is the time for women to embrace their money power, because it is the gateway to creating forward confident movement. And I really believe that that when we can take the fear, again, like I said earlier, take the fear out of building financial freedom, that frees us up to be able to bring those unique gifts into the world and do the work that we feel we're called to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you again, Pamela. I so appreciate you. And remember, everyone, you are joy looking for a way to express. And part of that expression may be authoring a book. And if so, get a hold of me. We love you all. Thank you again. We'll talk to you next time.